might just be resting in your coin jar, in an old drawer, or forgotten in a box of childhood memories. We're talking about the remarkable 1963 Liberty Jefferson 5-cent coin, a nickel that has stunned collectors and historians alike with a mind-blowing value of $316,000 million. Yes, you heard that right. This small 5-cent piece, seemingly ordinary at first glance, is known in the coin collecting world for its incredible errors, rare minting flaws, and mysterious variations that have turned it into one of the most valuable nickels ever known. Now imagine this. You're holding a simple 1963 nickel in your hand, a coin that most people would spend without a thought, worth just a few cents. But under the right conditions, if it bears the right mint mark, the right mistake, or that one in a billion flaw, it could be worth more than entire estates, more than mansions, more than priceless art. The story of the 1963 Jefferson Liberty nickel is one of history, craftsmanship, and sheer luck colliding to create a masterpiece born from imperfection. So stay with me as we explore what makes this coin so unique, so mysterious, and so unimaginably valuable. The year was 1963, a time of great change in America. The nation was alive with optimism, technology was advancing, and coin production was in full swing at the U.S. Mint. The Jefferson nickel, designed by Felix Schlag, had been in circulation since 1938, replacing the Buffalo nickel. On one side, it features the left-facing portrait of Thomas Jefferson, with the word Liberty curving elegantly along the edge and the date, 1963, pressed to its right. On the reverse, you see Jefferson's beautiful home, Monticello, detailed with pillars and steps, surrounded by the words E pluribus unum, United States of America, and 5 cents. Millions of these coins were struck that year at the Philadelphia and Denver mints, marked respectively by their no mint mark or a small d to the right of Monticello. Most of those nickels went into circulation, used for coffee, gum, or parking meters, ordinary coins for everyday life. But among those billions of strikes, a few pieces were unlike any others. Something had gone wrong during minting, and those mistakes, rather than ruining the coins, transformed them into treasures. The 1963 Liberty nickel became famous among collectors because of the range of rare minting errors found in a handful of examples: doubled dies, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, die cracks, and even rare re-punched mint marks. Each of these small accidents made those specific coins unique, one-of-a-kind pieces of history. Let's take a closer look at how such a simple coin could end up being worth $316,000 million. First, it's important to understand that minting errors are not all the same. The U.S. Mint, even back in 1963, used highly precise machinery to ensure accuracy in every strike. Yet, perfection is an illusion in any mass production process. When a die becomes misaligned, worn down, or polished too much, errors can occur. Sometimes the coin is struck twice, producing what collectors call a doubled die. On some 1963 nickels, the word Liberty or the date 1963 appears doubled, creating a shadow-like second image that collectors and experts prize. Other times, the coin planchet, the blank metal disc, might shift slightly during striking, resulting in an off-center image where parts of Jefferson's head or the Monticello design are missing. These off-center strikes can range from slight to extreme. The more dramatic, the more valuable. Another fascinating type of error seen in some 1963 Liberty nickels is the clipped planchet. This happens when the metal sheet from which the blanks are punched overlaps during cutting, producing coins with crescent-shaped clips missing from the edge. Then there are die cracks, caused when a die begins to fracture under pressure, leaving raised lines or bumps on the finished coin. These cracks often appear across Jefferson's face or through Monticello, creating what collectors sometimes call lightning errors. Each crack is different, making every coin unique. Some 1963 nickels even have what's known as die cuts, raised lumps of metal that appear when parts of the die break away completely. These rare forms of damage create bold and unmistakable features that make collectors go wild. The mint mark also plays a crucial role in a coin's rarity. In 1963, two major mints produced Jefferson nickels, Philadelphia No Mint Mark and Denver D Mint Mark. Most 1963 D nickels are quite common, but every once in a while, a repunched mint mark RPM appears, that is, when the D was accidentally stamped more than once in slightly different positions. In the days before fully automated minting, this human element of error was not unusual, but by the 1960s it had become far less common. That's why a 1963 D nickel with a clear repunched mint mark is incredibly desirable today. Some rare versions even show what looks like a faint shadow or ghost of a second D beneath the main one. Those details are microscopic but game-changing, and they can turn a coin's value from 5 cents into the millions. But how did one of these coins reach a valuation of $316,000 million? The answer lies not just in its rarity, but in its condition and the passion of collectors who see coins as living pieces of art and history. A coin's grade, its level of preservation, has enormous influence on its value. A 1963 nickel that still has its original luster, sharp details, and minimal wear can be worth hundreds or thousands of dollars, even without an error. When combined with rare minting mistakes and a flawless surface, the price can skyrocket beyond imagination. Professional grading companies like PCGS and NGC evaluate every aspect: the shine, the strike, the edges, the lettering, and coins that achieve near-perfect mint state MS grades often become legends. The most famous 1963 Liberty nickel that reached record-breaking value reportedly had a combination of errors never seen together before: a double die obverse, an off-center strike, a die crack across Monticello, and a repunched D mint mark, all in near-perfect condition. Collectors called it the miracle nickel. It drew massive attention at auction, where bidding soared past all expectations. Its final sale price, an astonishing $316,000 million, shocked the numismatic world and cemented its place in history as one of the most valuable coins ever discovered. That sale set off a wave of interest in 1963 nickels, with collectors everywhere scouring their collections and spare change, hoping to find another hidden treasure. The beauty of coins like the 1963 Liberty nickel lies in how they blend human craftsmanship and imperfection. When Felix Schlag designed the Jefferson nickel, he could never have imagined that decades later, one of his coins would be worth more than entire companies. Schlag's design was chosen after a public competition, and it represented American ideals of freedom and knowledge. Jefferson, the thinker and inventor, paired with Monticello, a symbol of architecture and intellect. Over the years, millions of people carried this coin in their pockets without realizing they were holding a small piece of history and, in rare cases, a potential fortune. But beyond design and minting, there's a deeper story behind why certain coins like the 1963 nickel capture the public's imagination. They remind us that errors, imperfections, and accidents can create unexpected beauty and value. In a world obsessed with perfection, these coins are a reminder that flaws can make something truly unique. Each mistake tells a story of the moment it was struck, a moment when a machine pressed a bit too hard, or a die was just slightly misaligned, leaving behind a signature unlike any other. Collectors see these not as defects but as signatures of history, proof that even in the most controlled environments, chance and fate can intervene. Some of the most fascinating 1963 Liberty nickels have what experts call die clashes. This happens when the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet in between, transferring faint details of one side's design onto the other. My very important fellow, now at the last history of this video we go to another amazing journey into the incredible and mysterious world of rare coins, where small pieces of metal can tell enormous stories and where a simple 5-cent coin can turn into something worth more than a fortune. We're going to dive deep into one of the most unbelievable stories in numismatic history, a story that seems almost too astonishing to be true, the story of the Liberty Jefferson 5-cent coin from the year 1990. At first glance, this coin looks just like any other nickel you might find in your pocket, but hidden beneath its simple, silvery surface lies a mystery so rare, so remarkable, and so valuable that it has stunned coin collectors around the world. This one coin, struck more than 3 decades ago, has been valued by experts at an incredible $308,000 million, a staggering number that makes this one of the most extraordinary coins ever known. Imagine holding a tiny piece of metal in your hand that was meant to be worth only 5 cents, something so ordinary, so common, that most people would never think twice about it. Yet this exact coin, because of its remarkable minting errors, mistakes, and one-of-a-kind imperfections, became something far beyond its face value. It became a piece of history, an artifact of luck, craftsmanship, and accident, all rolled into one. The 1990 Liberty nickel has become a symbol of how something seemingly insignificant can become extraordinary simply because of how fate and machinery collided at just the right moment. Let's go back in time to understand the full story. The year 1990 was a transitional time in American history. The final decade of the 20th century was beginning, technology was evolving fast, and people were still using cash and coins every single day. The United States Mint was working tirelessly, striking billions of coins to keep up with demand. Among those coins were the Jefferson nickels, 5-cent pieces made of a copper-nickel alloy, featuring the famous portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the front and his beloved home, Monticello, on the back. At the Denver Mint, coins were being produced in massive numbers that year, each marked with a small d beneath the year 1990 to indicate where it came from. The machinery used to strike these coins was powerful and precise, designed to create uniformity and perfection. But perfection is not always guaranteed. Even in the most controlled environments, small errors can slip through. And sometimes those errors are not small, sometimes they create coins that are entirely unique, coins that become legends. That's exactly what happened with the 1990 Liberty Jefferson 5-cent coin. Out of millions of perfectly struck coins, a few came out just a little different, and those differences would one day make them some of the most valuable coins in history. These coins show a strange mix of minting errors, doubled designs, and misplaced markings that make them completely unlike anything else ever struck at the Denver Mint. The first and most striking feature that separates the rare 1990 Liberty nickel from the rest is the presence of a doubled die error. This type of error occurs during the die-making process when the design is imprinted onto the die more than once but not perfectly aligned. As a result, when the die strikes the coin, certain parts of the design appear doubled. On this particular coin, you can see faint but distinct doubling in key areas, especially on the word Liberty, the date 1990, and the inscriptions "I in God We Trust." Even Jefferson's eye, jawline, and collar appear slightly shadowed, as if echoing themselves. This subtle doubling is what collectors call proof of the mint's imperfection, and it's one of the most coveted types of errors in numismatics. But the doubling is only part of the story. Some of these coins also show another fascinating mistake: a re-punched mint mark, often abbreviated as RPM. Back in 1990, the mint mark, that tiny D you see under the date, was still added by hand to the die before coins were struck. If the first impression of the mint mark wasn't perfectly placed, the engraver might punch it again to correct it. But if the second punch didn't line up exactly with the first, you'd end up with a slightly doubled or shadowed mint mark. On the rarest of the 1990 Liberty nickels, you can see traces of this, a ghostly second D underneath, or beside the main one. It's a small detail, but to coin collectors, it's monumental. It tells a story of human touch, human error, and historical authenticity. Another type of error found in some 1990D nickels is the off-center strike. When the coin blank called a planchet isn't seated properly between the dies during striking, the design ends up imprinted off to one side. Depending on how off-center it is, you might see part of the coin with no design at all, just